The narcissism is pervasive. It's everywhere. And I had heard Dr. Romney, who is like the guru of all things narcissist. I heard her say that narcissism is a secondhand smoke of mental health.
Welcome to the Elite Few podcast, where we explore the fabulous, extraordinary world of the people who move the needle of success. Join our host Tiffany and producer Kyle as we dive into the stories and insights of the elite few who are making a difference and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Let's get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Elite Few podcast. We just want to thank you for tuning in again. Once again, if you hear this message and you have someone that needs to hear this, go ahead and don't hesitate to share that with those people that you may feel need this type of podcast and our platform. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe. Tell your friends. And today we've got a very special guest. As you can see in the screen, we're going to be talking about narcissism and what has gone on with Tiffany with that. And that we'll dive into a little bit of that. And Tiffany's going to go ahead and introduce our guest. Tiffany, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I love having you here with us every time. And I want to introduce a wonderful friend of mine. And I don't even know. I can't say enough good things about her. This is Teona Kim Alexander. And she is a licensed, I just told you I was going to mess it up. She is a licensed clinical and relational psychotherapist. Yes. Now, before we move forward, I want to say this, that I've known her for many years, and she was a life coach for years before she became a mental health therapist. Mm. And that's, I think, extremely important because her abilities of perception and picking up on behavior pattern. I mean, she's extremely intuitive.
Thank you.
She's gifted, and I just can't even name enough stuff. I mean, she was phenomenal before she had the education. The education just gave her the paperwork to do what she could already do. Now, let's move forward. Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
I don't know what else I need to say. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. As Tiffany said, I was a life coach before I became a licensed mental health counselor. And Tiffany had a lot to do with kind of nudging me to go back to Rollins to get my master's. And I'm so glad I did. And that allowed me to continue to dive into mental health, pathology. And when I was working with clients in life coaching, I would notice certain patterns that would come up, and it was just beyond coaching, because life coaching is about going forward. Therapy is about maybe going backwards to see what all this gunk is that we need to unpack and see, where you're stuck and all of that. And I would see that in my coaching. So you can only go so far. And my clients would continue to say, why don't you become a therapist so you can do both? I thought, I'm too old. No, I'm not. So that's kind of led me back into getting my master's a little bit later as my second career. And I am so very glad that I did. So coaching certainly complements my therapy. And I have just a unique style of my therapy approach, using both clinical and relational to get to helping people to get unstuck and moving out of their patterns, because it's all about patterns. And if we can develop new patterns of being, then we're going to create a different life. So I'm just really happy to be here.
Kyle and I are right on board with that in every way. We actually are conscious about, the patterns that we keep.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Because that's, how you show up is,
unless we have a disagreement.
No, we never. You and I have disagreements? No. We actually 12 in the last 10 minutes? No.
We actually don't, though. I wouldn't count those as disagreements. I think because we're not even mad.
We're
just working. Yeah.
You're just having a conversation.
Yeah. Well, and I think if somebody doesn't know us, it might look like we're saying bad things.
I think you guys are really genuinely authentic, and I so appreciate that.
Really?
That's just being comfortable enough to be yourself.
We are.
Yeah.
We are very comfortable with each other, and we care for each other very deeply. And one of my favorite things about doing the show with Kyle is the fact that we each have each other's back, and I don't have to worry about being vulnerable in a way that could hurt me, because he's going to make sure that doesn't happen.
I love that, which is so totally opposite of being in any type of relationship with anybody who is narcissist or anything with narcissism.
Thank you very much.
You're never going to have that. Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, there was one time, because I'm fairly confident. I'm an extrovert and I'm a confident person, right? So, and there's times when I'm very sure of my ways, and I want people to do things my way. It kind of probably comes from the medical background. Hey, I need you to do this so I can make you better. So some of that comes over into my real life, right? And I asked Tiffany one time, because she was telling me about all this, because Marcus went under my radar. I don't think it went under Jen's, because I think he always creeped her out. So that's why she never wanted to really do much. Yeah. But because Jen is amazing at pegging bad people, right? But it's one of those things where I got scared when Tiffany started telling me these stories, and I'm like, well, wait a second, that's kind of a glimpse into my personality a little bit when it comes to the confidence part of it. And I was like, Tiffany, remember that night I had a conversation with you? I said,
we had this was a deep conversation.
I said, am I a narcissist? Because I'm like, and you were like, absolutely not. And I'm like, well, wait a second, because some of the things that you're describing are my personality, but it's my personality.
And people can have a tendency. Sure. But didn't I go into deep about why you're the way your heart works and your mind works and the way that you're conscious of it. And he really doesn't want to control his wife or his daughter or anybody. I mean, I watch him. He might try to be very like, okay, this has to happen. But then when they say something back, he's like, okay, why don't you tell me what you want? Or why don't we do this? He's very good at trying to make things be amiable. Sure. Now, I'm not saying he's perfect, and I'm sure Jen can give you a list in alphabetical order.
I don't claim to be perfect. No, but I mean, there's zero people out there in the world that are perfect if they're in the right headspace.
And what's so interesting about your comment about you're wondering, gosh, could I be a narcissist? You don't really hear a true narcissist ever wondering, could I be a narcissist? Because they're not. Everybody else may be, but they're not. So they don't generally go into that self-reflective mode, introspection. That's just not going to happen. They don't connect to those parts of themselves.
Well, remember when we had split up in 2016 and 15 and 16, and he went into counseling, didn't believe he was a narcissist, but he went in and said,
"This is not me." You said he, and we were just talking about me. That's not
I'm
me.
talking about you and I were not in counseling. We just yell at each other and get it out. Yeah.
Okay, let's clarify the pronouns.
Right? My ex. I like to properly refer to him as the ex-ass. And so I think the state's attorney guy was like, I'd call him that too. So, but the fact is that when we went through this, he said he went in and told her, I need to talk about my narcissism. And she said, why do you think that? He goes, well, my wife's a psychology major. And she said, I am. I'm like, crap, that just made me look like the bad guy. But it didn't take her long. Supposedly, he could be lying about all of this. I know he went into counseling at Rollins. I don't know what he actually said to them. God knows, right? And so he told me that he had his list, and he was told to go over this. The thing that really made me doubt the situation was when she had said he was done. I'm like, no counselor will ever tell anyone you're done. If you actually are dealing with that, you have to be in counseling continually and have constant checks. And he would go through this list like, see, I'm not doing these things. But it didn't take long. It took 6-7 months and stuff would start to come back around. And that's what we want to go into. I want to really touch base on that and how you feel that living with a narcissist affects somebody on a psychological and actually physical level.
It does. It affects all of you. I mean, it's going to uproot your nervous system, right? So
because they trigger you on purpose to piss you off at the most high end and just sit there calmly and be like, see how mad you are?
Yeah, and because it's never their fault. They're never the villain. They're either the victim or the hero.
Well, he likes to be the victim. His thing was the victim. He had to be the victim.
When it comes to let's back up a second. Let's back up and go ahead and discuss. I know there's multiple levels of narcissism, and I don't know if there's if you want to go through all of them, because I think there's a lot. And
there is. We can just go into the four typical different types of narcissism.
Yeah, let's go into 4 typical narcissism. Let's give our listeners an overview of what education. That is. Yeah, and then we'll get into the rest of the stuff.
There's I think the most people are very comfortable knowing or labeling people as the narcissist when someone displays grandiosity. The grandiose, it's all about me. The looking good, a lot of admiration. I'm more important than you, the high level of self-importance, the entitlement, that kind of thing. I'm the center of attention. Look at me, that grandiose. But people always go, oh, he's such a narcissist or she's such a narcissist. So that's the grandiosity. Then there is more of the dangerous, toxic narcissist, which is the malignant narcissist. That is a dangerous kind, in that there are parts of them that delights in hurting their victim, if you will. So there's a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for?
So not all narcissists delight in hurting their victim.
No, they don't. But malignant, toxic narcissists, they do. I mean, they may feel bad if they're hurting their family members, whatnot. But however, it's kind of like the ends justify the means. I'm going to do what I need to do to get to where I need to get. And if somebody got hurt along the way, too bad, so sad. I was the better one. I was the strong one. I'm entitled. I'm good. They don't feel bad. Okay. They just really don't. They lack complete empathy. And that's the common theme of all narcissists. They lack empathy. And we can talk a little bit more about that.
But that is hard to point out because they're very good at faking empathy.
Oh, absolutely.
They like to look like, oh, but I'm so concerned about all these people. And I've watched
when it suits
several people that I know are complete narcissists, and they always want to pretend, I was really concerned that these people are going through this, but they don't care. Yeah.
And then the third one is the covert, the vulnerable narcissist. And that's the tough one to pick out, because it's all about woe is me. The world's against me. I could have gone to Harvard, but, it's always, something didn't happen right. They did everything right, but man, it just, I was 5 minutes late, or something happened that makes them look like the victim. They have the victim mentality. They often come across as depressed. So sometimes they get treatment for depression, including some medications. But after a while, medication should work if you're truly depressed. But it's not. They're just sad, because they tell the victim story. So they are the victim in their own story. The world has done me wrong. So that's the covert vulnerable narcissist. Yeah. So, and the last one is a communal narcissist. And these are, the ones, oh my gosh, we need to raise money for this. And there's hurricane victims, and let me go help them while the hair looks perfect makeup in your Chanel suit. It's all about me. Take pictures, make sure everybody knows I helped them. So it's all about getting the admiration and attention. So those people are the ones that, they're, back to their significant others, their wives, husband, their children, they get the brunt of it all. But the world, they view the communal narcissist. Oh my gosh, you're so lucky that he's your husband, she's your wife, and, he's your dad or she's your mom. Woo woo, it's wonderful, right, because they love that validation. But when they come home, that mask comes off.
That definitely falls in line with my mom in that area. The church was her thing, her volunteers, her charity, and she's always likes being the victim and everything she can be the victim in. But she was never good to, like, her children. She never treated them nice or.
Of course not. They treat the world very nicely, so the world views them as this amazing human being. That's the mask that they put on for the world.
Oh, okay.
Then they come home.
So here's my question about the communal, because when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I just pegged somebody I knew. I'm like, that's him. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's totally him, because he's always like, look at all this stuff I did. But can you just be that one, but then it doesn't carry on at home, and you're the other ones where it actually is detrimental to a relationship? Or
you generally it's pervasive. You pretty much embody one of those four things. I mean, it's not you're exclusively this, but you generally kind of tend to show up in this type of narcissism. And what all narcissism they have in common is simply lack of empathy, constant, unreasonable self-importance, entitlement. They're special. They deserve special treatment, that type of thing. And it's like that constant supply of admiration, validation. Look at how good I am. Look how great I am. So they all seem to embody that. And
but they can be that fourth one, but not be detrimental to their marriage.
Correct.
Okay, that was my question.
Correct.
Okay.
But the thing is, Kyle, when you lack empathy and you can't connect with someone because it's all about you and your appearance and how you look. And when your spouse comes along and they get a little bit of limelight, instead of being happy for them and supporting them, you're not. That makes you jealous. because no longer the highlight is on you. It's all about you. The narcissist is all about me. Look at me, look at me, look at me. It's deep inside is this just severe insecurity that is driving the ship. And, we can do another episode on the attachment wounds. What happens, right? Narcissists, they're made. They're often not born. They're made by overly being doted on or neglect and abuse.
And it is a combination of both. Like, for example, this should have been a clear sign to me, but, you didn't know much last century. Let's be honest.
You don't know what you don't know.
No, well, I mean, our world didn't know in the 90s. We were unaware of these mental health issues back last century completely. No. And when I first met my ex-husband, he's like, well, I'm the only child, so my mother and grandmother completely spend their entire world around me, and it's always about me. Now, I I should have said, yeah, you know what, fuck you. But I thought, well, I'm sure who takes that to heart, like any normal, sane, mentally healthy person. And he seemed productive in all these other areas of his life that, and, and I didn't do that. And it always angered him. It always angered him that he was not the center of everything. Yeah. And even when the child was there, like he would try to use biblical principles to be, well, I'm the husband. I should stop, please.
Yeah. You should worship
it's a baby. Me. You're an idiot. And he could recognize his faults when it came out of someone else's mouth. So he had several friends that were complete idiots, and they would say things that he would say shortly after. Like he'd say it to me and they'd say it a few days later to him, and he'd come home and be like, I'm really sorry. This guy that I think is an asshole said all this stuff, and I realized that's not good. Like he could pick up on the ridiculousness of it because he was taught at some point these are wrong. But he had an inability to look at that as a trait problem. Correct. It was that actual circumstance at that moment in that sentence, not how I view things, how I look at things. I need to change everything. Right. And so when we did have the separation, he went through a lot of time trying to fix some of that. Sure. But the reality of it is, if you're not actually going to do the inner work, to have if you just want to look good, and that's all it really was. He wanted to follow the principle, right?
Yeah, like, true narcissists. I mean, true narcissists. And so again, let me just clarify a little bit. There's true narcissists that the DSM, the Diagnostical Statistic Manual, that pathologizes, right? It has all the disorders in there. It's purple. Well, now it's like turquoise, but it's been updated, but it's yay thick. But like that 3 to 5% of the people have true narcissistic personality disorder. One of the reasons it is so low is because narcissists don't go to therapy to get the diagnosis, right? But a lot of people have narcissism. So there's that spectrum of narcissism. There's, mild, moderate, severe. We all embody a little bit of narcissism. There are times you have to. It's called survival. Hey, I have to take care of myself. Like you were saying earlier, Kyle, hey, I'm a mover and a shaker. I have got to make sure this is done right. And, I don't mean to come across arrogant, but if I don't have this confidence, so people may.
I'm not showing up on camera without makeup.
Exactly. I'm not. I need to, because, I want to present well. I want to look good. That's okay. And that's a little bit about self, but that's not narcissism. Right. So we all have a little bit of, I want to look good.
I'm still never happy about how it looks, but I do try.
But so that's a whole different topic, girl. Okay? That's all about women and the social pressure, what's supposed to look good, right?
That's a whole new episode.
Yeah, that's a whole new episode. We got that. But the narcissism is pervasive. It's everywhere. And I had heard Dr. Romney, who is like the guru of all things narcissist. I heard her say that narcissism is a secondhand smoke of mental health. Whoa.
Good. Woo! Track that one, Kyle, right there for our
wow.
shorts. There we go.
Credit what number? Wow. What time are we at? 1800 or 18 minutes in. I got to write that.
Yeah, right? I mean,
that was amazing.
You got to give credit where credit is due. And she said, it's the secondhand smoke of mental health. And, I'm like, spot on. It's the secondhand smoke of our society. It's everywhere. It's very pervasive, and we see it.
And how does it end up affecting you? When you're in a marriage or a relationship with them, how does it affect you financially? How does it affect you in your ability to pursue success and actually achieve things in that.
It's very difficult because you're beaten down so much, right? Your self-esteem, your self-worth, hopelessness, helplessness, and you're constantly in state of confusion because oftentimes, gaslighting is a word that, we used to do, I'm being gaslit. And people say that, but are you really being gaslit? Just because somebody doesn't agree with you or they have a different experience than you does not mean they're gaslighting you. Now, narcissists will intentionally do that to confuse you. So you end up gaslighting yourself, wondering, did I really say that? And after a while, you really do begin to question your own sanity, going, that couldn't have happened. So it's that cognitive dissonance, right? You're thinking to yourself, that just didn't happen. So you begin to, start future faking your own identity. And
because I had a sister, I think it really helped to weed that out early. Mostly because both of us were like, that's not what happened. There was no confusion as to, I'm not the idiot. This is clearly what just happened.
Right.
But I do believe we had our experience in it being raised with my mom, who literally will do something right now and then 5 seconds later deny it and believe that it didn't happen. And so all 5 of us knew how to counter that right away.
You did.
So when we saw him come in, her and I both were willing to step on it. He would back down sometimes when there was enough evidence, but he would capitalize on certain behavior traits.
Right. Well, they minimize
around
it.
people who believe. So like there were certain behavior traits I had that my brothers might not have liked, and he would capitalize on that and kind of leverage it to pretend like, see how she's always ended up to try to gain upper ground.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and make
always.
look bad. Yeah.
It's minimizing their behavior and highlighting whatever you're doing to support their behavior.
So it's your fault. We went to Kyle, you remember our class reunion, our 20-year class reunion, and we all went to dance. You go to the dance bar the night before, everyone goes to dance. So we walk in, of course, Andrea's with me, right? And I said, I only want, I'm only going to get one drink. In a couple hours, I'll have another one. And Andrea's right there. He walks away from the bar. He has 2 drinks in his hand. And he's like, here, in front of everybody. I know how much you like to drink. I got you 2 drinks so you could start off right away. Yeah. And Andrea goes, I think she told you she just wanted 1. And he goes, oh, please. We all know Tiffany can't drink 1.
Yes. It's the little things. Sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He really, and I knew what he was doing.
It's a little bit of that smear campaign.
Yeah.
Right?
All the time, constantly. And I found out, like I said, after the divorce that he would say worse things that I didn't know about. Like, unacceptable things, like affairs that I didn't have. And I'm like, please, I'll tell you everything I did. I'm not even embarrassed. But it's like, why would you make up things that are just horrible just to make your spouse look bad? And I truly believe it's because they know a narcissist, the worst thing, and you can confirm that I'm right. The worst thing you can say to them is, I see you. Yes. Because they hate themselves so much being truly seen. And I think that's what's going to happen with my ex-husband. Everybody will truly see who he is right now, and he'll have no choice, but he won't be able to run from it anymore, ever again. And any woman who dates him is an idiot, because it means she didn't do her research, because it's going to be,
but not your problem.
No, it actually won't be my problem, which Kyle and I talked about. It's my best, like, delight in the whole thing is that I get to just truly walk away and shed it like a coat. Yeah, you get to heal. He is left with his own mess. Like, the biggest thing I said that towards the end of our marriage constantly was, like, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Yeah. This is going to affect me. Do you know when every time when I was leaving him, do you know what this is going to do to me? You know how it's going to ruin my life? You know how none of these are me problems. Yeah. These are all you problems. And so we did end up reconciling over that time, but I watched for that last 7 years him constantly rear back up again, manipulative things, conniving things. And when I pointed them out, because they're on the list, he would change that behavior and try to not have the behavior, but the intent behind it was still the same.
Sure. It's always going to have the manipulation behind it. Yeah. It's not a genuine remorse. I'm really sorry. And narcissists never fully own their stuff. If they did something horrible, you don't say, gosh, I am so sorry that what I did really hurt you. I can see the impact of that. I am so sorry. What can I do to make it better? What can I do to support you? How can I be better?
Yeah.
You will never hear that. If you hear that from someone, they're not exhibiting narcissism at all. What you
Okay,
hear,
so that leads me.
He would do that. He would do it
Oh,
when he thought he could get me back.
Sure.
And then
Manipulation.
immediately do nothing about it.
sure, it's manipulation.
Right. Yeah. Not go to
so
counseling. Not
here,
help.
that leads into a perfect question I want to ask.
Yes.
When it comes to that, so if someone's listening to this, when
Yes.
someone is listening to this and they're hearing your explanation
Mhm.
and they're like, wait a second, okay, so he may not just be an asshole, he's a narcissist, and basically what they're saying is that he's never going to be fixed. Is there any way to fix a narcissist?
No.
Or like counseling or anything? I mean,
No.
or are they is that, like you said, it was the beginning of mental health, or
It's-
basically?
Can narcissists get help if they're truly diagnosed with the narcissistic personality disorder? There's 9 criteria in the DSM. You have to have 5. A lot of the narcissists will have 5 and more. I've worked with ones who have all of them. So do they? But here's the thing, Kyle. It's so interesting when you look at our DSM. We use that to diagnose mental disorder, right? If you think about it, narcissism is the only disorder that does not affect the narcissist. The one who is diagnosed is not affected. Everybody else is affected by his diagnosis or her diagnosis, but not the person diagnosed with it. So to me, why is it even in the disorder? Because they're not impacted by them. They're fine. Their life is fine till it isn't. And then they'll go to counseling just to appease their partner. See, I went to counseling. Counseling doesn't work. The therapist is an idiot. The therapist doesn't know what I'm talking about. Because once they see that the therapist really see them for who they are, they're going to find a reason to get the heck out of Dodge. They're not going to stay. Because they don't want to be exposed.
Well,
I know that. Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, it makes, because it's on that borderline of having some sort of mental disorder, it makes a lot of sense that marriages don't work when finally the other person says, you're a narcissist and I'm done. So because when full disclosure, my wife and I went through some issues and we got a couples counselor, and we were on the brink of divorce, not because of narcissism, just whatever reason.
This is the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, first responder stuff and
it's not.
blah,
I think
blah,
it's a little
blah,
sarcasm
whatever.
there. Brother, sister.
Yeah, exactly. So, but one of the things that when we went first to the counselor, he said, if there's one of 4 things that are going on right now and they're not being dealt with or haven't been dealt with, then I can't help you because there's no way out of it. So one of them was, of course, physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that is no longer happening. The other one is, physical and mental abuse. The other one was like money laundering. That's not the word I'm looking for, but somebody who's hiding money and not being truthful with money. And the other one
was Marcus. Obviously, we found out. Yeah.
Well, he had a whole bunch but the last one he definitely had, because he said any form. The last one he told us was the big one for me, because the other ones, adultery, I think that was one, active adultery that you haven't stopped.
Or
so
addiction.
Active adultery, active abuse, mental or physical, like true mental abuse and true physical abuse, and then the money hiding or whatever. And then the last one he said really was profound, and I've never forgotten it. I've taught so many people this that have come to me and said, hey, how'd you fix your marriage? And I tell them these 4 things. And I said, these were the 4 things that we looked at, and we looked deep into them. The first 3 weren't happening. The last one, we didn't know. So it was any form of mental disorder, from as small as depression all the way to schizophrenia. That's not being and the key here is that's not being treated. Okay. So I could have had depression, and I could have been, okay, I'm in counseling and I'm on medication for my depression, if that was the case. Or I've got bipolar disorder. Okay. Well, are you being, do you have therapy? Do you have medication for bipolar? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Well, okay, then I can help you. I can, as long as that stuff doesn't stop,
right.
When it comes to your mental health. But what you're saying is the narcissist, it almost seems like the worst case, because there's not a drug you can fix narcissism with.
Nope.
And
it's
if that person has
disorder.
narcissism, it's a disorder inside the mental health realm.
Right.
And if that person, so that's one of the 4 horsemen is what he called them of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So it's inevitable. It's going to happen.
It is. And you have to decide. I mean, there are women, most narcissists tend to be men, because the world glorifies that go get 'em, that type A personality, right? We live in a very success and career oriented, goal driven world. So therefore men, right? We get that. So sometimes I've had clients where she says, you know, I do believe my husband is a narcissist, or certainly embodies a lot of narcissistic traits. So, you know, I have young children. I have weighed out my options. I'm going to stay. There's no active abuse. It's just that, you know, I'm not getting any satisfaction in this marriage. You know, I just feel unseen, unheard, unloved, all those things. But I've had clients who said, I've chosen to stay. Again, you know, not my job to tell them to leave. Whatever is, how can I best support you to live in this situation that you have chosen? They have autonomy. You get to choose the life you want to live. So sometimes they say, I realize this, but I'm going to stay. And then we work with that person to see, how do you protect yourself from narcissistic abuse?
I think that I want to add on to that, because I don't have a mental health license. And I'm going to tell everybody, if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, just leave. There is no fixing it. They're not going to get better. You staying is like having somebody stab you and begging them just to stop instead of walking away. And the reality is, you either stop it happening to you by you taking charge of your life, or you just continue being allowed yourself to be abused. There's never a point. It's okay. When I talk to these people, they're like, yeah, but I understand what's going on. So you don't understand. No, what I understand is, as long as you're in that horrible, detrimental relationship, you're deteriorating every day, and you are not a good mother. You're not a good parent. You're becoming a worse parent every day. And I have several friends that were in terrible narcissistic relationships who had several children, and it ate away at them for years until they could get out. So walk away, do what you have to do. Don't let it kill you. Quit taking the poison, because the only person you're satisfying is the other one. My ex-husband said on a regular basis to anybody, he always knew he was better than everyone else. He truly believed it. He thought he was smarter. He thought he was better. He thought he was a better achiever at every work, every job. And he said, I know one day his mom laughed and goes, well, I don't think you really think that. And he goes, no, I actually do. Yeah, he goes, but I don't think it's my fault. I think
nothing ever is.
Yeah. He goes, I don't think it's my fault. I think when you actually are smarter and better, then it's just, it doesn't mean that you think it. It's just you are.
I call it grandeur of delusion.
Well, it was his mother's fault. Yeah. She spent his entire life catering to telling him he was wonderful. Oh, you have a genius IQ. You're this, you're that.
Sure.
Well, anything happened at school, if he got complaints from any of his schoolmates, any of the people at high school, if he got called in, she would just run in and protect him like he was, oh, he didn't mean that. Well, he meant everything.
But nothing's ever his fault. So he grew up, again, going back to how narcissist is made, right? The attachment with mom, dad, lack thereof, or too much thereof, right?
Well, and he, you know, that travels, which we'll get into that with our next interviews that are coming up with the other therapists about the deviant behaviors. It just toddles on top of that. You've got the childhood abuse, which is the trauma, on top of being told you're perfect constantly. Right. And then boom, you've got
believe you are.
You've got this monster that has no ability to take responsibility for actions, and you have no one making them.
Right.
So if you're married to that, or in a relationship, and I just spoke to a woman, she was in a relationship with a woman, and she said, no, I know she's a narcissist, but I love her and I want to make her work. And she was a bartender at a place I was at, and I looked right at her and I said, you're making a giant mistake. Right. I said, this is only going to continue to deteriorate you. She doesn't love you. You are just something that she has that's a convenience to her. And everything you've told me in this conversation about your relationship so far has proved it, because she's still keeping you on a marginalized on how well these things benefit her. She goes, well, I know, but I believe. I said, I know what you believe. You believe that you can, I don't know, somehow get through to her with wisdom and love. I said, that's not going to ever work. Wisdom and love only gives them more power. And they know that they have control of you. You have to set your boundaries. And people who want you will respect and love those boundaries.
Absolutely. But I just want to go back to what you said about if you're with a narcissist, you know, pack up and leave. It's not so simple, because sometimes you have to look at all the other things, because no relationship is exactly the same, right? There are so many different components that go into intimate relationships. Yeah. So if there's abuse, I'm talking about physical abuse and all of that. And you have to understand, you know, are you in danger? You have to weigh all those things out. So sometimes packing up and leave may be the worst thing that you you can do.
When
so
you have three kids or
you
something
have to
like
be
that,
very
yeah.
careful. So, my job is not to say you need to go. It's like, what do you need to do for you? Because at the end of the day, it's the person's life. So you get to choose what you want to do. And
they do need an exit strategy.
They do need an exit strategy. Absolutely. Yeah. An exit strategy maybe in a month or 3 months or maybe in 4 years when my child graduates from high school.
Yeah.
So everybody gets to create their exit strategy if they want to. And some women are beaten down for so long they stay. In fact, I know someone who has been married to a very successful businessman for over 40 years. And she says, I know what he is, and that's okay because he has provided me with an incredible lifestyle. And so she was okay with that. I don't judge that. I get that.
Now, is that her own bit of narcissism?
No, it's the damage from being told that I have to be living in this cage.
Absolutely. And she believes that. And he's beaten her down so much. Without me, you wouldn't have any of these things. And she believes it. And she has become accustomed to living the good life. And now she's older in life. So she says, hey, look, I've endured this for 40 years. So why not? I'm staying. It's okay.
She actually believes she can't do it without
But she traded it out. And that was her decision. So that's fine.
But I don't think it's any different than certain people stuck in certain types of religious bondage where they believe that they want to be there. Because, I believe in this religion. Well, you don't, because you were born, taught, and raised to be controlled. And I think that when we were discussing it earlier, when you're dealing with different types of therapy that can unprogram that, if they started those things, they would recognize, wait a minute, hold on, I don't want that. And even just me going to school didn't take long for me to be like, wait a minute. I not only did I know I didn't like this before and I saw you, but I don't have to put up with this.
No, you don't.
And
it's a choice.
No, and he definitely didn't like that part.
Well, sure, because once you start, the worst thing you can do to a narcissist is you call them out and saying you're a narcissist. You don't, because they don't want to be called out. They're never going to say that they are because they're going to flip that narrative on you. You're this, you're this, you're this. And then after that goes on, especially when you're not someone as strong as Tiffany, right? And you begin to believe.
It didn't always feel that way, but
right? Yeah, but you do have a strong
you've done a lot to
personality.
get you're
right?
Thank you,
you do. You've come a long way. But we all have certain temperaments that we're born with. Some of us are very strong to begin with. That's our temperament. And some aren't.
Right.
So temperament doesn't change. Your personality may change and evolve over time. But temperament is just kind of how you're born. When you have more than one child, 2 kids, same parents, boy, are they radically different. That's their temperament. That's not going to change.
How do you know anything about that? Do you not need children?
Right. So there's a lot to be said for that. But, and I've had a therapist friend of mine and we have run several therapeutic support group for those surviving from narcissistic abuse. And I tell you what, it was a life-changing for them and for us to hold that safe space for them to come to and talk about it. And what helps in that group situation is for them to say, I'm not alone.
I want to make sure people, because we know we have to wrap up in a minute, we're getting to our time and you have a meeting, how you have your own practice in Maitland.
I do have my own practice in Maitland.
I really believe anybody who's watching this, if you're in the area, and she does Zoom.
I do. I offer Zoom.
So you can be in California.
I prefer in person, but Zoom is offered. Yes.
She's phenomenal. And I feel if any of this radiated with you and resonated within you, and it doesn't just have to be about narcissism. She can help you with anything. She's really amazing. She can really connect with you and see. And I will tell you, reach out to her. We're going to have her contact information and stuff in the link and in the bio there. But definitely reach out to her. She has her own practice in Maitland. And it's, what is the practice called again?
Tkacounseling.
There we go.
It's my initials. Nothing super creative here. But before we wrap
keep it simple, right?
Keep it simple. Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple, sweetheart. The KISS formula. Right. But I do want to say one of the greatest antidotes for a narcissist is go deep. DEEP is an acronym, DEEP. Do not defend. Do not engage. Do not explain, and do not personalize. Because you're not going to win. So why? You don't have to defend what you did. You can say, okay, I hear you. That's not the way I experienced it. Zip it. You don't have to engage. don't have to explain because it's your fault anyway. It's never their fault. And don't personalize it because it's never about you. It's always about them.
Right.
So if you just kind of let go.
Exactly. And, here on the Elite Few, it's Tiffany and I's goal to bring help to our listeners and to bring special guests on that can shed light on situations where somebody may be dealing with something and to give them actual things that they can do above and beyond calling a therapist. But, so Tiffany, real quick, at the very end of this here, I have a question for you. You have no idea I'm going to ask you this question, but I know you're going to be able to speak of it because I've seen you come through a year and a half of this pain and this healing. So if you can, taming Tiffany is going to be tough because this is a big question, but I want her to hyper focus. I want her to hyper focus on this answer and then wrap up the show at the end of your answer. Okay. But my question is basically, what do you recommend to our listeners if they've had some red flags go up listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to get out, but I'm too afraid because I don't know how I'm going to heal myself on the backside of it. Can you speak of your healing process? Just high level stuff. Don't get super in depth.
I'm not going to. I'm going to hit the top. I'm just going to say it right. Top 5. Number 1, you actually need to speak to somebody immediately who is knowledgeable in the area of what you need to escape from. 2, you need to have a support system because I had an amazing support system. Mm-hmm. I really can tell you, I don't think anyone had what I have. I mean, it's crazy. And it was still difficult. It was still almost like I was alone and I had insane support system. But get into healing. I did energy healing, right, Kyle? I got involved in Bible studies, not because, yes, Jesus is everything. You need the word. You need to listen to that. You need to get healing. But because the support in it is people praying for you. That energy in itself is something that heals you. You need that. You need that. And I did hypnotherapy, and I'm going to highly suggest it because if you don't cure your inner child damage, you cannot heal from anything else. The whole reason you're accepting these bad things in your life and those behavior patterns are allowed to repeat themselves because she could tell you I'm right. We both have degrees in this. Everything happens to you from in utero, from the moment you have been conceived until you're 10 years old. Yes. And from conception to 0, from 0 to 5, and from 5 to 10. That damage affects you for the rest of your life, and that loop will continue until you address it and heal it. And the reason I suggest hypnotherapy is because you are not talking about it and dredging it up. They're actually going in and just removing it. And it's not as simple as erasing your mind. It's not like they turn you into a chicken. It's more like a twilight meditation of recognizing I'm acknowledging these things and I'm now recognizing it's not in control of me.
Right. We've got a great episode on hypnotherapy.
Yes,
if anybody hears that and thinks, oh, that's mumbo jumbo, I'm telling you right now, listen to our other episode on hypnotherapy. Find it in the things. It'll say hypnotherapy in the description. And they talk about it in depth. And they talk about the stage present hypnotherapy and then the healing hypnotherapy and the science behind it, the true science, not mumbo jumbo.
Yes,
so
watch
that episode.
Scientific brain waves, neurons jumping.
It's addressing the unconscious mind.
Yes,
that's what's
you.
Running the ship 90% of the time is the unconscious mind.
Yeah.
So you go in there and you heal those pieces.
I really will tell you, both everyone watching right now, I'm talking directly to you. Both Kyle and Teona have watched me go through this process. And they can tell you even just in January, I was a complete mess. And she saw me immediately after we kicked him out. Kyle was here within a week or 2 after that. I mean, the difference between even 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and now is night and day. The healing process that I started back in January was an intense one, and I knew I had to get up. And they've watched it, and they can tell you when I will eventually be in a position to talk to you guys more about this on a different profile where you can ask me questions. Just you've got, if you do not make a change in your relationship, the directions that you're going, you can't just break up with somebody and then go out with someone else and think it's going to be different. You're going to keep dating the same person. You're going to keep having the same problem in every relationship, attracting the same people. And I can say this, I've said it to a million people, and they keep doing it.
Well, you're the common denominator of all of your relationships.
Yeah, which is why I was not going to date until I fixed this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm not doing that.
No, because you know what they say, you're going to bleed all over somebody who didn't even cut you.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And
that's a visual.
And blood will ruin my clothes, and they're expensive. I don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that. Heal thyself. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Tiffany, for answering that question. I know that there was people out there going, okay, well then how'll she do it? And that was awesome that you literally gave it a list. So once again, just with the Elite Few, our idea is to have content that helps people, that we show people that have lifted up their lives and doing things to help others. That's our mission. That's our motto. And don't forget to like and share. If you hear some of this and you think somebody enters your heart or enters your mind that needs to hear this episode, please don't hesitate to share that with them. Please give that to them. Send it, copy the link, send it to them in a text message. They can open it up. It'll come up on our website, theelitefew.com. You can listen to our podcast right there, along with YouTube, which is Elite Few Media. Everything you can't hit Google without hitting Elite Few without finding somewhere to listen to us. So go ahead and type that into the Google box and you'll find everything you need to know, or go to theelitefew.com and everything we have is presented there, including links to talk to Teona if you want to get a hold of her. Tiffany, go ahead and sign us up and finish us up here. And thanks so much, Tina. It was great. Teona, it was great to meet you. Yeah.
Likewise.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I love having you involved in every episode, and I'm so excited Teona could be with us today. And we know we'll have her back again. And I want to tell everybody, stay fabulous and join us next week.
Bye.